Hey guys, the Real Estate Pete here, and I have my partner, one of my partners here, David Lazzaro with United Mortgage, and we wanted to kind of just get some information out there. With the COVID-19 pandemic that's going on right now, there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of misconceptions. So I wanted to introduce Dave Lazzaro from United Mortgage. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Pete. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Dave and I actually have some roots in Saddlebrook, so that's kind of how we know each other. And Dave, why don't you tell the people where you are, what you do, where you come from?
Well, I started out about 23 years ago as a financial advisor. Was, again, holistically trying to manage people's assets. Wanted to work on both sides of the balance sheet and make sure that I manage their debts as effectively as their assets. Banks started coming onto my turf with investment advice, so I counterpunched and I got into the banking business in 1997, and I'm still in it. So still a big part of what I do.
All right, great. Yeah, that's more than some people can say for sure. We've definitely had some ups and downs, and here we are today looking at some downs with maybe some potential for a big upside. That's my opinion. So let me just ask you the $1,000,000 question, right? So we see the Fed cut rates, stock market's down, even though it's climbing back up as of today, as we're recording this. So I think a lot of people are thinking, okay, it's time to refinance. It's time to get in on a loan. What are you seeing with mortgage rates right now? And what can you say just in regards to that conversation, that maybe myth?
All right. So one of the main things, obviously, the trend is lower. We've had some disruptions, right? Because so much volume spiked, capacity got used up. So how do you slow things down? Rates actually got worse for a few days last week to try to slow things down. Again, the Fed announced that they're going to go in and buy. I said the good news is, at least this time around, we have parameters so they know what they're buying this time. So rates are now trending lower again. So is now a good time to evaluate your situation and see if it makes sense? Absolutely. Now's a good time to contemplate refinancing. Absolutely.
So what are you seeing right now for rates? Now, listen, I know it's a loaded question and everybody's situation is a little different, but just to give the people out there right now a little bit of an idea, what are we kind of looking at for rates?
A real strong credit profile, you're probably looking into the mid to low threes. Again, every single loan has its own set of characteristics. So the three main drivers of final rate, final price is how much equity you have in the house, okay? Your credit score, and the percentage of your gross income that we can verify that you utilize to service all of your debt. The lower that number, the better. The more equity you have, the better. And the higher the score, obviously, the better. So those are the three main drivers in your final price. There's no universal rate. I know when you see the newspapers, there's a universal rate. Not everybody qualifies for those rates because you have to hit the parameters. And so that's how I explain that to people.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, what can you talk about as far as, and we'll try and keep it as simple as we can, but when you see the Fed cut rates, what was that really designed to do, in our economy? Because I think the people I did speak to were surprised that the rates didn't drop, as low as 3 or even below 3 because we received the cut. So what is the intention of the Fed cutting rates in that scenario?
Well, I'm not going to make people's eyes roll back in their head.
Yeah.
Well, the Fed is trying to stabilize pricing for a lot of the ticket items that have been put on hold because of everyone staying home, right? So it's designed for maybe a 5 or 6 year duration term or shorter. So it's going to obviously have a positive impact if you're trying to buy a car right now.
Okay.
You're going to see 0% for 80 some odd months. You're going to see 60 months interest-free, I believe, from all the big manufacturers of furniture, big ticket items, white goods, and that's what it's designed to do. Will it impact short-term adjustable rate mortgages? Yes, but it's not going to impact in a great way in any way, shape, or form the 30-year mortgage or even a 15-year mortgage, because that's not what it was designed to impact.
Okay. All right, cool. I got you. That makes a lot more sense. Um, and now, so we're heading into a market right now, or we're in it. I mean, it's not like some other markets, shifts in the market where it's kind of gradual. You see it coming, it happens, and then it lasts for an extended period of time. This as we know, everything is day by day, hour by hour, and in some cases, minute by minute. Um, so, my personal projection is, look, we are definitely, we've hit a screeching halt. We're going to see a decline in activity, transactions, that kind of thing. But there is always going to be a need for someone to buy and sell. And my expectation is, as we start to get control of this COVID-19, and when we start to get back to work, and the things kind of get back to normal, I think we're almost going to see a slingshot effect of people who've been in their houses. They've realized, boy, I really don't like this house that much, because they've spent a lot of times in their house right now. And I think we're going to see a lot of inventory in a short period of time. When that time is, we don't know. So to anybody who was maybe thinking of buying a house, this spring, in the spring market, and I think we're going to see it push back to maybe a summer market as opposed to a spring market, what are some things that buyers or potential buyers can do now to start getting ready for that process?
All right. So there's a couple of things you could do at the personal level, right? So now is not a good time to actually take advantage of what the Fed did, which we just talked about, right? Which is buy a big ticket item with a big installment lease or finance payment. So I would hold off on all of those things. Again, we want to have a bigger percentage of your gross income available for what your purchasing power will be for a house. I know nobody wants to live in their car. They want to live in a comfortable house. But everybody wants a nice car. I get it. But the focus should be holding off on the big ticket items, and also checking your credit. Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. You can get a free report. Make sure if there's anything that you would have any type of discrepancy, fix it. Fix it sooner rather than later, because it doesn't happen overnight if you do catch an error on your credit report.
Gotcha.
So
start working on credit.
So those are the two main things you can do. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's like any other bottleneck, you're backing up demand because of something else, some extraneous factor, right? We can't control it. We have a pandemic.
Something non-economic.
Something non-economic. And we had a conversation a year ago at one of our meetings, and I said to you, the Fed was doing what last year? We got to raise rates 4 times. We got to slow things down, right?
Right.
And then we started seeing mortgage rates go up, and what kind of handle you're going to see. I think we're somewhere near around 5 a year ago in a couple of months.
We were, almost 5, yeah.
And we were talking about how low we really could use lower rates, and I said to you, well, if we ever see rates like we did in the last crisis, something really bad in the world has to happen, right? We had that conversation.
Yeah, we sure did.
And who knew it would be a pandemic, but that ended up being the driver.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So now we're retesting those lows, aren't we?
Yes, that we certainly are. I think that's really all I kind of wanted to cover. One thing that we talk about a lot, you and I, and I think is great advice to someone who is looking to buy in the future, is taking that payment. And you and I had just kind of discussed it, where say their current rent, where they're living, they're paying $1,600 a month, but they know that they want to, the house that they're looking for is probably going to be closer to $1,800 to $2,000 a month, and they start, budgeting for that money and basically just banking that extra money to get used to the payment. So if somebody were to call you and say, hey, this is my situation right now, would they have to kind of go through an application and get the credit checked right away? Or could they just have a conversation with you and just kind of get a ballpark of where they would be? All
right. So when it comes to going from renting to owning, I tell people the same thing, right? Try to make believe like you don't have that extra $300, $400, $500, the difference between renting and owning. Make believe you don't have it for 3 or 4 months. Can you do it? Can you do it and not have it impact you in your normal day-to-day life, what you like to do with your free time? Because if it's not there and you have to keep on using it, that's probably not the price range you want to look in, or the steps you want to take towards home ownership until you can grow into that payment. And we all did that. We all bought our first house.
Right, we've all.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
So after 4 or 5 months, you're like, yeah, I got this. No, no worries. It is what it is, right? So it's just another payment, but you'd rather own the house and have a little bit of that payment every month going towards building equity as opposed to helping pay your landlord's note off on the house you live in. So
100%.
I'm all about that. And the second thing is, I would tell people, if you are going to be emphatic about getting a rate today, not knowing that in 6 months you might be buying a house, we got to grade you somehow, right? So the credit reports do help us score you. We have to have a score as a baseline to drive an estimated rate and an estimated loan amount. So I really do. I send out that small little intake form. I give everybody a little cheat sheet on page 4. Just give me these items, and we'll work out the ratios and an estimated scenario for the loan to value and everything else, so you can get an idea what the payment would be, but also the price range you can look at. So,
Right.
if you can't afford 350, don't look at 350. If it ends up being 3, that's what you have to look at.
Right.
So everybody's going to have a different comfort level.
Right. So basically, you'd be happy to have a conversation with them and get the ball rolling and give them a range of rate, but to really narrow it down and really know, you have to kind of know what they're looking at with the credit.
Yeah. If I'm going to do the deep dive and drill down, you got to have a score. I got to have a score. You got to price it.
Gotcha. Because what I tell you today could be different tomorrow when I pull the score. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, listen, generically people say, oh, I have great credit. I have great credit. And then you run the tri-merge report and you come back with 3 scores, right? We throw out the high, we throw out the low, we keep the middle one, and that's how we price you. So,
right.
I mean,
and I know, even I've had things come up on my credit report that were not mine. I share the name with my father, and, there was just some confusion there on things, and things happen. So it is good to do that ahead of time and get ready to go. So any other last tips, as far as, getting through this market right now and looking to come out on the other end when things pick up and getting ready to buy?
I mean, ultimately, prepare yourself by getting yourself a free credit report. See if there's any discrepancies. Try to work on them. You're going to have some time. Unfortunately, you're going to have more time than you'd like to have. You could do these things now. The good news is getting online is easy. So you can get those reports. I know you can get a free one even without a score. At least you can get what's being reported. At least if there's any discrepancies, work on fixing them. 2, don't buy any big ticket items. Don't create another new installment, because when we run the credit, they're going to say, what happened in the last 20 days? They're going to question, no matter what lender you go to. Did it turn into a new trade line? Did it turn into a new loan? And anything that's going to impact those ratios, like we talked about, you should try to reduce putting anything new on until after you've closed and bought a house. And then afterwards, you're going to have plenty of offers and opportunities to take advantage of the low interest rates for those things the Fed is trying to stimulate, which is the big ticket items for the house, furnishings, and everything else.
Gotcha. So hold off on big purchases, new lines of credit. Keep your debt as low as possible. Maybe pay off some small things.
And practice living without that extra money. And practice.
That's one of the hardest things to do, but yeah, it's a great way to get you there. And I always say that surplus in money that you're paying back to yourself essentially can be used for down payment, or maybe some new rugs or refinishing the floor, things like that, because you always want to have that safety net once you do close on the property, because as we all see, you never know what can happen like that.
Yeah, life can get in the way quick.
All right, Dave. Well, listen, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing some information. How can people get in touch with you if they have questions and things that they need?
Well, Facebook, I have a business page on Facebook, David Lazzaro, United Mortgage, NMLS 296844. They can reach out to my cell, 201-232-4099. And I know somewhere in there is also my email address. So I can send out.
We'll get your email address on there. Don't worry, Dave. People will be able to email you. We'll make sure.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it.
You got it. Absolutely. All right, guys. So David Lazzaro and Pete Kopech here. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out to us anytime. We hope you found this information helpful, and stay safe. Have a great day.